Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at the OnePlus X. This is a 5-inch Android phone, and I know a lot of you have been writing in asking about where these smaller, well-performing Android phones are, because lately we've been seeing these huge phones with 5.5, 6-inch screens that really aren't all that easy to hold for many people, and a lot of folks are looking for something smaller and lighter. This one might be worth considering because it does check both of those boxes. The problem, though, is that OnePlus has horrible customer service, and that is something you may want to consider before you buy one. And at the end of the video, I'm going to relate a pretty bad customer experience I had with OnePlus so you can make the right decision before you buy. So let's take a look at the hardware first. This is probably the nicest phone I have seen from OnePlus. I've looked at their OnePlus One, the OnePlus 2. This one feels really unique. And what's funny is that this is the budget model. There's no plastic on this at all. It's got glass both front and back, and it only costs $250 as you see it, which I think is pretty remarkable. You do want to be careful about the backing here because this is a big piece of glass, just like the front of the screen is, and you definitely want to be careful about dropping it on things. They do give you a case in the box to protect the backing, and then by default there is a little screen adhesive protector on the front also, so you do have some protection both front and back as part of the default configuration for the $250 starting price. There is a ceramic version, they call it, that costs a little bit more, that has a stronger backing. So if you don't want to use a case on it, you might want to look at getting that one because that is slightly more reinforced than this one is, but you definitely want to be careful about that. A nice metal band here working all the way around the phone, similar to what we saw on some of the iPhones previously. It has a 5-inch OLED display, 1920 by 1080, 441 pixels per inch. That is better resolution than the iPhone. In fact, the phone is about the same size as the iPhone 6 and the 6S, so it's really nicely form factored, at least for me. I really like this size phone, and this really does well for me. A little bit thinner than the iPhone, I think, and about the same height, so really nice package here. And what's nice about this is that they were able to get a 5-inch display into this size versus 4.7 on the iPhone, so pretty much the same size in your hand with a slightly larger screen, which is really nice on there. On the side here, you've got your power button as well as a volume rocker. You also have a SIM card slot here because you can't open it up, so the battery's not replaceable, and you can't get your SD card in anywhere but on this tray. Now, the only issue with this tray is that you can put in 2 SIM cards if you have 2 carriers that you're looking to use, which both support 4G, by the way. However, if you want to use an SD card to augment its internal storage, you have to pull one of those SIM cards out. So if you have the SD card installed, 1 SIM card. If you have 2 SIM cards installed, no SD card. So just keep that in mind as you are looking at your network requirements. You can, of course, always just pop the tray out and replace the cards as you wish. Both of those SIM cards, though, support 4G networks, which is something that not all phones have, which I thought was nice to see in there. 16 gigabytes of internal storage on the phone, 3 gigabytes of RAM, as well as a Snapdragon 801 processor. So it does kind of fit into the middle of the marketplace, and we'll see how some of that works in a minute. On the top here, you've got your headphone jack, and this also has an FM radio built in, a traditional FM radio, picking up the free music over the air. So when you have a pair of headphones plugged into it, which are not included, you can pick up radio signals from your favorite FM radio station. So kind of back to the future on that. It works really nicely, actually. I was playing around with that a little bit and received most of the stations that I can get in my car. And on the side here, you have a rather unique notification switch. This is on some of the other OnePlus phones as well, and it's got 3 positions. So in the top position here, it is completely off on its notifications. You can slide it into the middle position. It will just give you priority interruptions, so you could set, friends and family, people that should always get through to your phone. You can have everyone else ignored, but those people get through with their notifications or particular apps perhaps. And you can also then flick it down to the bottom and get all notifications if you want to do that. And you can configure this in a bunch of different ways also. So it's kind of nice to have 3 different settings, because there's times when you want certain people or certain apps to get through versus others, and this one gives you the option to do that. There are a couple of cameras on board. You've got an 8 megapixel camera on the front here and a nice 13 megapixel camera on the back. Photo quality is pretty nice on here, as you can see. Really nice detail. Really is pretty good for a $250 phone. The video quality, though, is not as good. There's no stabilizer on the video. It only shoots 1080p, and it doesn't really focus all that quickly either. So I think the photo quality is going to be a much better experience on here than you will shooting video, but it is a $250 phone. Now this phone is not as fast as some of the flagship phones out there, so it's definitely slower than the OnePlus 2, their flagship phone at the moment. It's also slower than the Moto X and many of the other phones we have looked at here on the channel, but I think for most people it's going to do just fine. We've got the 3D Mark benchmark here running, and we get a pretty decent frame rate on there. Its score, when it's done with this test, comes in around 16,952, which puts it pretty much in the middle of where most of the Android phones are at the moment. Now, battery life on the phone is really good. I got through an entire workday on it. It does have a large 2,500 milliamp hour battery. It's not replaceable though, but I was able to get through my workday using the phone quite a bit throughout the course of the day. So that did actually pretty well for me. Everyone's mileage differs on battery life though, because if you're far away from your cell tower and it's having to transmit at a higher power to reach it, you will of course see a hit on battery life. But in my usage, it actually held up very well, surprisingly well considering what the overall cost is. And I'm really impressed with the hardware on this. This is a really nice piece of equipment. It will not work with Verizon and Sprint networks here in the United States, but most international carriers as well as AT&T and T-Mobile here in the US should work fine with it. Now, I do want to talk about the customer service experience with OnePlus products because it is nowhere near as good as the quality of their phones. And I wanted to relate to you an experience that I had with my OnePlus 2 phone. So it unfortunately got dropped into a sink full of water. And as you know, that is not a good thing for a smartphone. So I knew I was going to have to pay something. I was perfectly fine with that. I wrote into customer service and I said, hey, this is what happened. What do I do? It took almost a week for somebody just to get back to me with what it cost to get the phone replaced. And when I got that response, they didn't tell me actually how to initiate that process. I had to write back twice. And needless to say, it took about a month to actually get to the point where I could submit an RMA. And by that point, I was able to get an insurance claim with my credit card company taken care of before they even got back to me. That's how long it took. So a month for something that doesn't even require troubleshooting. I can't even imagine what it would be like if you did have some kind of technical problem with the phone. I tried their online chat. I was on hold for hours, and by the time I got to my place in line, it just had me waiting even longer. Never got anywhere there. I even tried calling their customer support hotline, and I got nowhere either. I was on hold forever, and a few times it just rang and rang and rang. So I think if you are looking at one of these phones, buyer beware, because if you have a great product experience with it, you're going to have a great experience, but the second something goes wrong with one of their phones, you are not going to get helped as quickly as you would like. And what's happening is this company is growing very, very fast. They've got great products. People want them, but they're not developing their customer service at the same pace of development as their products are. And they've made a conscious decision to do that. And I think it's a problem. And I really caution against buying phones from them at the moment, because if something goes wrong, you're going to have trouble. This is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching. This channel is brought to you by the generosity of my Patreon supporters. If you find the channel helpful, you too can contribute for as little as $1 a month. Visit Lon.TV/Patreon to learn more.